Hi, Nastasia. How you doing? Good choice, Denver. Great choice. I think it's perfect. I, Boy, I wonder if Denver's ever bid. Has Denver? This is something you can include in your work too. Has Denver ever bid for a Winter Olympic event? I know that there's the Olympic Training Center is in Colorado. I think that's up in Colorado Springs. Um, and there's a few, there's many venues that could be used. So I think it's a good choice. Now, in terms of your presentation and your writing, I think you're off to a fantastic start. I think you've really made several really pertinent considerations. I just want to go through this terrain-wise, perfect location to host. So the, this is all good stuff. Thousands of people from around the world. Check that. That's going to be millions of people. I mean, the the athletes alone, I think there's over 10,000 athletes alone. Well, no, that's the Summer Olympics. Winter Olympics, I know it's several thousand athletes. So um, it's more like, and then there's just families and politicians and everything else, and media and spectators. So there's more like millions of people converging on this location, not thousands. So keep that in mind while working towards your final report here. Then we have Sports Authority Field, Coors Field, Pepsi Center. We have a lot of different venues that are available in Denver proper. And then, of course, the surrounding areas. You mentioned Vail being an hour and a half away, but there is plenty of other um, locations that are certainly suitable for, and you would just have to research those. Um, then you talk about the influx of residents in Denver, and that's been going on for the last 30 years, of course. So you could talk about that and talk about the population. And also, one thing I would be concerned about is the population of Denver. Is there enough hotel rooms available? Because I know that, and is there enough lodging available? I know that Denver is a pretty heavy tourist location, so plenty of hotel rooms. But is there enough to be able to accommodate an event of this magnitude? Then you go into your promotional materials. That's great idea. Really good thinking to start thinking about that now. And then this is really interesting. I think this is where your rubber hits the road here. Is this and when you start talking about Olympics, a unique culture that shines through, and that's good thinking. So you're talking about Native American culture, and I think that's really kind of predictable, but you didn't leave it there. You went on to say that you're going to, try to put some other, include some other considerations in terms of the melting pot of the United States, as it were, as opposed to just, indicating the indigenous peoples of the area. So a good combination of both, I think it would be a really good idea there. Okay, so let me just go ahead and say, yeah, the Rio Games, World Peace and Environment, but the one thing about Rio was it was just a crime. It was like a crime spree. And talk about world peace, but I mean, people were getting robbed left and right in that particular event. So you might want to do a little bit of research on that. And I'm going to give you a bullet list here of things that I want you to check out, and I'm going to show you some examples like I've been sharing with a lot of the other students. So some of the things I think that are really important for you to take into consideration. Okay, weather. Talk about the weather. Talk about the altitude. Is the altitude going to be enough? Like especially in some of those higher altitude events, the lodging. I mean, I know altitude sickness is pretty serious in Colorado. You don't know because you're from Colorado, but I know that when I first got to Colorado from Ohio, when we first 30 some years ago, horribly sick. And I know that visitors and tourists come to Colorado, and if they go into the mountains, and they get sick because of the altitude. There's not enough oxygen. So that's a consideration too. Not that it's going to prevent anything, but it's at least worth something exposing and talking about. Okay, so weather, venues for sporting events and ceremonies. Talk about that. Are they available? Do they need to be updated, et cetera, et cetera? Accommodations for athletes, coaches, media, and nearby the venue. So you've got all the coaches, all the athletes, and the media. That body of that group would have to stay close to the actual venue. The athletes typically stay in something called Olympic Village, which is very, very close to the central location of the event. Then you have all the people at hotel rooms in Vail and Denver proper, in all the way up to Colorado Springs and around. Is there enough room to accommodate the millions of people that will be converging on the event. Considerations for athletes' families, spectators, foreign dignitaries, okay, things like politicians, things like that. Is it easily to navigate between the different areas that would be required to host the event? So in other words, no, we can't have everything right in Denver, right? So we have to go to Vail, we have to go to other outside areas. And if so, what is the transportation infrastructure like in between those neighboring areas? Is it easy? Is it affordable? Is it dependable? Very, very important considerations there. Okay, talk about the energy infrastructure. Okay, is there enough on the power grid to accommodate the energy that's going to be used in Denver for these 2 weeks, which is going to multiply what they currently use by 200 or 300. Not to mention the cell towers or the communication traffic. Talk about nightlife. Is there enough nightlife available for all of the people that are looking for that type of entertainment, movies, restaurants, etc.? Talk about public safety. I just mentioned that Rio games, how that was just a crime spree. So talk about public safety. And you talked about the rich cultural heritage, but also talk about environmental sustainability. Colorado is moving into a very sustainable state, much more so than a lot of the other states. So talk about the carbon footprint that might be left by an event of this magnitude. Social issues and equality. I think that we don't have any issues there in Denver. Communication infrastructure. I talked about political climate. Yeah, that's more for some of the international companies. Like I just got done talking to Valerie about Kazakhstan and its political climate. And, is there a propensity for violence? Is there a propensity? Is there any escalated violence or any conflicts in the not only the immediate area? You don't have to worry about that in yours, but just for something to think about. Medical accommodations. Are there enough emergency rooms? Are there enough hospitals? Are there enough clinics available for this type of population, temporary population? Natural disasters we don't have to worry too much about in Denver. Pollution, we don't have to worry about that. Altitude, I talked about, and then carbon footprint. So then I want to go over here, and I just jump over here to our announcements right up here. Remember our announcements up here, you click that guy, and it pops open the messages and the announcements. And so we have these announcements. I left two of them. One is this, it's called Consideration for Winter Olympic Host City. And I give a few paragraphs here about things to think about, but then this is really important. I give you 4 or 5 sources here that you can look and really get some great ideas about what to include in your report. And then finally, I leave an example of a project that was done by a prior student. Very, very successful project. So before you open that, I just kind of want you to read through this disclaimer. It just has to do with academic integrity. Sometimes people try to borrow work from each other. I'm not saying you are or anyone else in this class is, but just so you know, this is for reference only. And this student was kind enough to share the work for the benefit of future classes with the understanding that the work would be protected in terms of academic integrity. All right, so that's what I have. I think you're off to a fantastic start. I really do. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or other, please feel free to let me know. Okay? Thanks, Nastasia. Good job.